On the cold night of January 28, 2022, a tragic death in Canton, Massachusetts, would set off a controversial and deeply polarizing case. John O'Keefe, a well-respected Boston police officer, was found dead in the snow outside a home after a night of drinking with friends. His girlfriend, Karen Reed, was the last person seen with him. She was soon arrested and charged with his murder. The question on everyone's mind, was John's death the result of a tragic accident, or was there something more sinister at play? What led to his untimely death? Did Karen Reed accidentally hit him with her car, or was he moved and left in the cold? Karen maintains her innocence, insisting it was all an accident, but the prosecution has built a case that paints a very different picture. With conflicting evidence, allegations of police bias, and a jury divided, the case has sparked national debates about justice, corruption, and the truth. In today's video, we'll take an in-depth look at the events leading up to that fateful night, the investigation that followed, and the trial that left the nation divided. Stick with us as we explore the twists and turns of the Karen Reed case, a controversial trial. John O'Keefe was a well-respected officer in the Boston Police Department. With over 16 years of service, he was known for his dedication to the job and his love for his two young nephews, whom he had taken in after the death of their parents. Colleagues described him as dependable, compassionate, and fiercely protective of those he cared about. To those who knew him, John was the epitome of a family man. He was in a committed relationship with Karen Reed, a finance professional with a promising career. Friends said the couple had been discussing marriage, though their relationship was not without its struggles. Karen Reed, a successful finance analyst, was described as intelligent and ambitious. However, those close to the couple hinted at underlying tensions in their relationship. Friends recalled moments of disagreement, particularly about their social lives and John's long hours as a police officer. Despite these challenges, Karen was devoted to John and his nephews, often stepping in to help with their care. By all outward appearances, they were a loving couple navigating the usual ups and downs of a relationship. January 28, 2022, started like any other Friday evening for John O'Keefe and his girlfriend, Karen Reed. It was a cold winter night in Canton, Massachusetts, with snow covering the streets and temperatures dipping below freezing. The couple had spent their days separately, John working his shift as a Boston police officer, and Karen attending to her responsibilities as a finance analyst. Later that evening, they came together to attend a small, intimate gathering at the home of Jennifer McCabe, a mutual friend of theirs. Jennifer was the sister of another Boston police officer, and the event was a typical gathering for officers and their friends to unwind. It was not uncommon for Karen to attend these gatherings with John, although it was clear that she wasn't always comfortable in the environment. Despite the friendly nature of the gathering, tensions existed in the couple's relationship. They'd been together for 2 years, but there were clear signs of strain, especially when it came to their social lives. John often spent long hours working, which made it difficult for the couple to find time for each other outside of their busy schedules. Karen sometimes felt isolated and uncomfortable at gatherings like these, as they were filled with law enforcement personnel and their families, people with whom she didn't always share a common bond. But on this night, both of them seemed to put those issues aside. The party was lively, with food, drinks, and light-hearted conversation. Karen and John arrived at the McCabe residence around 9 p.m., and from the start, everything seemed to be perfectly ordinary. According to people at the gathering, the two were cordial and appeared to be enjoying themselves. Karen, however, didn't engage in many conversations with others. She mostly kept to herself, sitting quietly with John. As the evening wore on, both Karen and John had consumed several drinks. A mix of beer, wine, and whiskey seemed to have contributed to their slight buzz, though neither appeared to be heavily intoxicated. The friends who were present didn't think anything about it at the time. Karen's behavior seemed no different from what they had seen in the past. But by around midnight, she began to feel unwell, perhaps due to the alcohol or the lack of sleep from the work week. She told John she wanted to leave. John didn't want the evening to end so abruptly, but after some back and forth, he reluctantly agreed. It was around 12:30 a.m. when they decided to leave, though John wanted to stop at a nearby friend's house for a quick visit. The plan was to drop John off at his friend's house on Fairview Road, just a few minutes away from McCabe's home, and then head home to rest. Karen and John left the McCabe party, and the frigid night air hit them as they stepped outside. They drove for only a short distance, arriving at a quiet residential area on Fairview Road by 12:30 a.m. This was where John was supposed to stay the night with friends. According to Karen, she dropped him off in front of the house and saw him walking toward the front door. Karen said she didn't see him enter, but she assumed he did. She later told investigators, "I saw him walking toward the front door, but I didn't see him go in. I figured he'd be fine." Karen didn't stick around to make sure John made it inside. She told police that she wasn't feeling well, and without any further interaction, she simply drove away. But here's the crucial moment. What happened in the moments after Karen left? Was John actually inside, or did something else happen that would lead to his death? The next piece of the puzzle comes from neighbors in the area. They reported hearing a car, Karen's SUV, as it turned out, leave the area around the same time she said she had dropped John off. However, no one reported seeing John enter the house. In fact, some of the neighbors were puzzled because they never saw him that night. According to one witness, they had heard nothing that indicated someone had arrived at the house. Even more troubling, no one recalled seeing John at any point after Karen's car left the street. While Karen headed back to her apartment still unwell, the mystery began to deepen. Where was John? Why didn't anyone see him enter the house or hear from him afterward? What had happened after Karen's departure? Hours passed. Karen eventually went to bed, still unaware of the events unfolding. She woke up the next morning at around 6 a.m. The concern about John's whereabouts began to gnaw at her. She hadn't heard from him at all during the night, and when she tried to reach him through calls and texts, there was no response. She began to panic. She had dropped him off at his friend's house on Fairview Road, but something felt wrong. Karen couldn't shake the feeling that something had gone terribly awry. With no word from John, she made the decision to retrace her steps and check on him. Around 6:15 a.m., Karen drove back to the house on Fairview Road. She was concerned, but still uncertain of what she would find. She pulled up to the front of the house and noticed that the lights were off. The driveway was quiet, and there were no signs of life. But when she looked closer, her heart dropped. Just a few feet from the driveway, she saw something that made her stomach turn. There, lying in the snow, was John's body. John O'Keefe, the man she had been with for 2 years, was lifeless in the snow. His face was frozen, his body contorted in an unnatural way. It was as though he had been lying there for hours, exposed to the freezing cold. At first, Karen thought she might be imagining things. She rushed to the body, desperate to see if he was alive. She felt for a pulse, but there was nothing. She immediately dialed 911, her voice shaking with panic. When the dispatcher answered, Karen's voice trembled with distress. She said, "I think I hit him. Oh my God, could I have hit him?" The urgency in her voice was unmistakable. She couldn't believe what she had just discovered. She told the dispatcher, "I found him in the snow, and I think I hit him. I don't know what happened." As paramedics rushed to the scene, Karen remained on the phone, trying to explain the situation, though her words were frantic and disconnected. She kept repeating that she didn't know how he ended up outside. At one point, she told the dispatcher, "I just don't understand. I dropped him off, and then this. I didn't know he was outside." When the paramedics arrived, they found John in a state of severe distress. His body had suffered significant trauma, his head was swollen with bruising, and his clothes were frozen with snow. He showed signs of hypothermia, likely having been exposed to the freezing temperatures for hours. The authorities immediately launched an investigation into John's death. The crime scene was examined for clues, and forensic experts began to piece together what might have happened in the early hours of that morning. One of the first things they noted were tire tracks. These tracks seemed to lead directly to the spot where John's body lay. However, the tracks themselves raised more questions than answers. Some suggested that the marks were consistent with a car running over the body, while others theorized that John had been struck by the vehicle before being moved. The area around the body showed signs of disturbance, but no definitive explanation was clear. If you've learned something from this case, if you've reflected on the nature of trust, manipulation, and the devastating effects of betrayal, then perhaps there's a lesson to be carried forward. Let's continue to ask the hard questions, to look deeper, and to protect those who are most vulnerable. Because as we've seen, sometimes the greatest danger comes from those who are closest to us. If you found this story chilling, if you believe this case serves as an important reminder, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories. Your engagement helps bring awareness to the importance of vigilance, and it allows these stories to continue to be told. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.